ready for the next episode. Can't wait to get home and turn my TV on. I'm ready for the next episode. Got my snack shoes off, no remote control. I'm ready for the next episode.
Hi guys, and welcome to our next episode. Today we're going to be discussing Inside Man on Netflix. I'm one of your hosts, Nick.
And I'm Jess.
And I'm really excited. This show was my suggestion. I had seen it when it first came out, and then I stumbled upon it again. And I love when I stumble upon a show that I've seen but I haven't seen in a while, and I get to watch it again. And it's almost like watching it for the first time, but you kind of have a vague memory. Had you seen the show before I suggested it?
No, I had not watched it. I saw it recommended on Netflix, but I never took the time to watch it before.
I like the show because it like poses a lot of like ethical questions and moral questions, and it in some ways it has me like judging myself because I find like a lot of the characters very likable, even though they shouldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
You
and I
ready
think.
for the synopsis?
Okay, yes. All right. So, Inside Man is a show about a man who is in prison for the murder of his wife, who is played by Stanley Tucci. He murdered his wife in some grim, gruesome way, and but he has this unique ability to really kind of get to the bottom of different crime scenes. So people come to him with different cases or different crimes that they want to help him solve, and they allow him to solve them while in prison because he's so good at it. So the main story here is a woman who meets this woman casually on the train. They start an associateship, like a really early kind of friendship, and then the woman goes missing. And she believes that she's missing, but because she doesn't know her that well, she doesn't have a lot to go on, and she brings him this case. So the show is him working through figuring out what happened, and also you see what actually happened to her friend, whose name is Janice, along the way.
So for this episode, I kind of want to discuss what the show is trying to say, the questions that they're asking, and if we get any answers in those questions.
Okay.
How does it sound?
That sounds good to me.
So the main character, who's played by Stanley Tucci, who's like a criminology professor who's on death row for murdering his wife, who uses another inmate who's also on death row, who's like a serial killer. He uses him because he has like what do they call the memory? He has a
Photographic memory.
Yeah, photographic memory. He uses him almost like a tape recorder. So they interview people, and they take on cases, and they try to help solve cases. And so one of the things that what's his name, Jefferson says is he basically says that anybody can be a murderer in the right situation.
Correct.
Do you agree with that?
Yes. I do. I think we all have, like, I don't think that there's anyone that's like purely innocent, could never commit a crime. I do think that there are certain crimes that, like, certain people wouldn't commit, but yeah, murder, that basic one, I think, yeah, most people could be pushed to that.
Your mom, I could never see your mom committing murder. Your mom's like one of the sweetest people. You could see it.
I don't feel like I can answer that question.
I know that everybody has everybody has like their breaking point. And I guess if you put a lot of people, maybe they're in like survival, situations. Maybe you could be. But is that murder though? If you're in a survival situation,
did you kill someone? Yes, that's murder. That is murder. It's back of like self-defense. That is still murder. Like that. Now that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to be punished for every murder, because if it is self-defense, then yeah, of course I don't want that person punished, but did they still commit a murder? Yes.
See, when I felt like the question I felt like they were posing was not a self-defense question.
No,
I felt like they were like, can you create a situation where someone who would not inherently take someone's life by choice decides to take someone's life by choice?
So when we look at what happens in this situation, so we have the vicar. who
Mm-hmm.
is trying to protect his son from a false accusation. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of why he takes things in his own hands. It goes down the realm of crime. He, in his mind, everything he's doing is to protect his son. So, like, you asked
Right.
me about my mom, I'm like, was she, you know what I mean? Like, if she felt like it's protecting, her children, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she'd do a lot. And I think most people would. That's why it's so understandable the kind of the situation he gets himself into. Now, yes, of course, I could looking at it, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see a lot of ways that you could have got out of this. You handled this completely wrong because you were in a situation where you were kind of like heightened and irrational. But the base of it for him is he feels like it's a more moral decision to protect his child than the things that he does to protect his child.
And so the Jefferson, who is like the guy on death row, he spends the entire, like, I feel like the entire like show saying, "Don't like me, I'm not a good man."
Hmm.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Do you also find him very likable though?
He is very likable, but like, how often is that? Like, people write letters to serial killers in prison. Like, it's crazy. Because like there's something like you can be a bad person who does bad things, but be very charismatic. And Jefferson is very charismatic.
He is.
So is the vicar.
So is his partner in crime, like the guy who's like his video
Yeah,
reporter.
yeah.
Like they go into details about their crimes, and like the his what is his friend on death row? I don't remember his
Dylan.
name. Dylan. Dylan is like a serial killer and like a cannibal. And
Yeah.
so they kind of go into like rather graphic detail about
Mhm.
his crimes, but it's such a light-hearted way. You feel very much removed
From the
from the
actual
crime.
crime. Yeah, but
And
he committed
so
gruesome crimes.
very gruesome. But they present it in such a way and you feel so far removed from the crimes that it doesn't feel real maybe,
Hmm.
because it's very much giving like buddy comedy as very serious things are happening.
Yeah.
So because here, like Jefferson is he's investigating the crimes, but he does not leave the prison. He's on death row. He has very limited visits, very limited phone calls. So he's like kind of pulling the strings from prison. So
Hmm.
this is not something where he's out in the streets. And so you have like these scenes with him in the prison, and then you actually have like scenes of what is going on as like he's like looking for this woman Janice.
Hmm.
And another thing that I found interesting was the way that he got the case. Was the journalist came and she wanted to interview him, and he really wasn't interested in the interview. And then she came back and she's like, "I have a case for you."
Hmm.
And he said, "If he's like, you can't have both. You can I'll either investigate your case
Hmm.
or I'll give you an all access interview, but you have to choose in this moment. And if I give you the interview, you can never ask me about the case."
Hmm.
And she said, "Okay, I'll take the interview." And I was floored.
I was not.
Really?
Yeah, I was not. I wasn't because I'm like he's clearly he's clearly trying to teach her a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
One, he, like you said, he's a criminology professor. He spent his life as a professor, an academian. He, it sounds like, even though his wife's murder sounds gruesome, it, to what we know about the wife's murder right now, sounds like a crime of passion. Not that he was a career criminal.
Mm-hmm.
What he is a professor. And so the way he talks to everybody, Dylan, the warden, everybody, it's like he's teaching, and he teaches through the Socratic method. He asks a lot of questions. He tries to get you to figure it out for yourself. He leads you, but he doesn't directly tell you the answer. And that's what he's doing with her. She comes in the first time she comes in to interview him. She's very judgmental. She's very disgusted, obviously disgusted with him. And he makes a comment that like you think you're something about, basically she thinks she's better than him, like or everyone, most people.
Right.
And so he is trying to bring her down a notch to say, no, listen, your career is more important than this woman that you are pretending is your friend. Because they just met.
They did just meet, but
Mm-hmm.
she knew her
So
well. But the lady sent her like a picture,
yeah.
and like she had reasonable enough suspicion to think that that woman was in trouble.
She did. No, I'm not doubting that at all. And of course, as the audience, you know that the woman really is in trouble.
Right.
And you also know that they met in a situation where Janice saved her from something, and now she's kind of like a little bit, wants to save Janice as well. So no, it's not a question about everything was real. Of course, everything was real, and Janice is really in trouble. What he is trying to teach her is that this kind of moral superiority that you have about yourself is like built on a false house, because
Right.
you are genuinely concerned about Janice. You are also ambitious, and your
Right.
ambition is more important.
That's what I was shocked about. Like, this woman is in trouble.
Mhm.
And this man can help, even though it's crazy because the prisoner is in the US. He's an American prisoner. Am I right about that?
Yeah, you're right.
Yes. And then but the actual woman who's missing is in England. So he's in it, but that like he can help her.
Yeah. And the
And
journalist is from England. Yeah.
right, but you choose the interview because I'm like, let's say you choose, okay, help my friend. And your friend is helped. Couldn't you just interview her afterwards? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you needed to have an interview, okay, you needed to have an interview. Why would you not like have him save your friend, find your friend, and then you can write a first person account because your friend was saved, and you can interview your friend. And when she chose the interview, I could not believe it. I don't know. I'm like, it made me look at her the same way that I looked at the murderers.
But like Jefferson saw that from the beginning, and that's what he was trying to say. Like, you think you're morally superior, but when given the opportunity, you will do something that is self-serving.
Right.
And she kind of, in a way, needed to be brought down a peg. He's an interesting person to do it, but you know what I mean? But yeah.
That's true. And so thankfully,
like always, I'm sorry, real quick. Oh, also, like once you realize your friend was in danger, she is a journalist. She's got good instincts. She knew she was in trouble. You could have flew your behind back there and said, "I'll do this interview later."
I'll do the investigation. I want the investigation myself.
You chose to go back, and still continue to talk to this guy because her what is it? She's a journalist and she writes all about crime. Like her I don't know what you call those things. Goodness, but anyway,
like her specialty.
Her specialty area is crime. You know what I mean? So you could have chosen went back home and investigated that and say, you know what, I'll try this again with this dude again later.
Right. Yeah.
He's from at that time he didn't have a date for his execution.
Right. So yes, luckily he takes the case without letting her know. He lets her know eventually, but she doesn't find out until later on that he's actually been secretly like investigating like her friend being missing. While doing several investigations, like while investigating her case, like he solves like 2 other cases. The case with the senator was very interesting.
The with the money being deposited.
Yes,
that was And that's again, I'm like, it's hard to say that was hilarious because it's such a serious topic that but right. The way it's presented is comical. Yeah,
it is because, like you said, what do you call it? The Socratic method. Yeah. Like he figured out the answer. Like someone presented a case to him, and he figured out the answer immediately. He did not tell the guy who brought the case to him the answer because he basically asked him, "Hey, he's like you." Because so the politician said that he had been accused of rape 30 years ago and that he didn't do it, and so he was having this situation where every time he had sex with his wife, he was getting a deposit for the same amount of money into his bank account, and he couldn't understand why. And so Jefferson's asking him questions, and Jefferson immediately puts 2 and 2 together and says, "Hey, I know for a fact that," because I think he had like 3 accusations. He's like, "I know for a fact that you've raped at least one of these women." And the politician was like, "Whatever, you don't know what you're talking about." And Jefferson's like, "I know exactly what happened," but he never told the politician. And then so Dylan is trying to figure it out. And so he's having Dylan like ask questions of him and kind of do thought exercises to eventually like he kind of leads Dylan to like the answer, which is like, it's very interesting because they're both on death row. But it's like they're trying to learn and understand the human condition.
And they're both on death row. They're both incredibly intelligent, different
They are.
skill sets, but incredibly intelligent, which is why they're able to learn from each other. Um, they're trying to. Yeah, I do think that they're both trying to learn about the human experience. So, like, he's a criminology professor, so he's always been fascinated with crime and why people
Mhm.
do what they do, and probably these moral questions that he keeps posing to everyone. And then Dylan is almost like he's trying to learn about these these humans from outside as if he's not.
Right. That is, I agree. Like it, and I wonder if that, like dealing with the fact that he was like a predator and a cannibal and he did a lot of like body dissection, if that was him
Mm-hmm.
trying to understand humanity because he does not feel like it.
Because he doesn't understand. He has no capacity for empathy, none.
None.
So like and that I can imagine that removes you from the human experience. He's still fascinated with it though.
Right.
Hmm.
That it was very like, I feel like Jefferson, even though he knows how he ended up in the situation where he killed his wife, I think part of him, he still doesn't understand it.
Hmm.
And I feel like he's trying to work through it with these cases.
I don't
Like,
know. I feel like he understands it all too well. I think he's trying to get everybody else to understand like you also have this capacity.
maybe that's what it is. Because it's just like people ask him very direct questions about why he killed his wife and he will not explain it. But it's very clear
Well,
that
he knows.
there's like there's a lot of context that people don't have that only he has that he's not willing to share.
Correct.
And I don't know what is that context. Is that a way of him trying to protect his wife?
I don't think that we're gonna know until it gets revealed, or if it gets revealed what actually happened and where her head is.
Mm-hmm.
Because he says like he says little things. He gives you little nuggets. Like he says once to, I think it's the reporter, which is Beth. If you ever really love someone, don't come home early.
Yeah, I heard him say that, and I'm like, okay,
So was she cheating? Did you come home and say something? Although I feel
right,
like it's something that feels basic for him. So I'm like I feel like it was something even worse.
right. Yeah, I hate that they never explain that.
Hmm.
Honestly,
Yeah,
like
especially because is this a limited series or
it is. It
we're
is.
not getting another?
No, no, no.
I'm like, it came out in 2022, so I figured by now we weren't going to get another one. But like, that's
No, it was never. I don't think. I think it was always meant to be open ended in that way.
But even the ending with Janice coming back to him,
Yeah, I think it. I think it was
perfect
always
setup for
meant.
season two and Janice to be the villain. Now, can I tell you, Janice is like one of my favorite characters.
I also enjoy her. I
I
like
enjoy Janice so much.
the. Here's the thing. Honestly, they did a very good job of writing characters
They
who
did.
are neither black and white, who make impulsive decisions even when like who are wrong in their rights and rights in their wrong. Like I think that I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed watching people twist themselves around trying to figure out a way. Like Janice is so intelligent and you kind of learn from the very beginning of the show that like she's a very intelligent woman. She's fiercely independent. She's
Mhm.
very moral. You know what I mean? Like
I don't know. I don't agree with that one.
you don't think that she's moral?
Not in the
Because
traditional sense. No.
well, in a sense, I feel like because think about it, like when like the journalist is her name Lydia? Yeah, Lydia. Oh,
It's not.
Beth. Lydia is her real name. I'm sorry. Beth. When Beth was like being like intimidated on the train by the guy, like Janice like jumped in when no one
She
else
did.
was.
She jumped in when no one else would. I don't think that Janice is a bad person. I just think like I don't think Janice is a bad person, and she doesn't have like these sort of base desires to do bad things. But I
Mhm.
also think she has interesting morals, and I think I'm like, oh, that's why I wish we were getting more of her. Like I like think about the way that she interacts with the son. Like she does not. She's able to appeal to the son. Like the vicar has a son who is classic, highly intelligent, wants nothing to do with school, can do it easily but refuses to do it. Kind of rebellious kid, right? And she's able to relate to him because she does not place judgment on the things that everybody else judges him for.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
But
why I'm
is
saying,
that because she also is kind of outside of society in a certain
well,
way?
and that's why I'm saying like she doesn't like. I don't think her morals are necessarily very traditional. You know what I mean? Not that she doesn't like have more. She does. There's a clear right and wrong. When she sees the stuff on the computer, that's a very clear wrong. I don't think in most situations. Well, I can't even say that now. Um,
I
you know what I
think
mean?
she
But like,
has traditional morals, but she doesn't have traditional socialization.
mhm,
Like she relates to
traditional
people in a
value,
very different way.
right?
Like she,
Exactly.
but
And
I think that's different from morals. Like I think
maybe it's values.
she's very
It's
black and white to me when it comes to her morals, like right and wrong. Like I feel like even
yeah.
crime and punishment, but I don't think she feels like she's not a warm, fluffy person. She doesn't want, even honestly, she doesn't really want to be friends with Beth. Like Beth kind of like forces her to
She
like be
does not
friends
want to
with
be friends with
her.
him. Yeah.
You know, she's
She
very
doesn't,
regimented socially. She's not like,
maybe morals is the wrong word. She doesn't have traditional values.
I agree with that. I do agree with that.
But to me, makes her even more interesting.
I wondered if she was autistic, honestly.
I wonder that about her and Dylan.
I don't know. Dylan, I think, and here's the thing, I'm going to use the wrong terms, and you're going to have to correct me.
No worries.
I think that Dylan is a sociopath.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the one that where he can't feel anything.
Social personality disorder, but those things aren't mutually exclusive. There's
Oh,
also
okay.
other things that he does, and I mean, and I don't know for certain. Like I'm not, I don't feel strongly about it with Dylan. I
Hmm.
don't necessarily feel strongly about it with Janice. I can see where it could be, but I don't feel strongly about autism with her either. But I'm like, I just think for both of them, I wonder. You know, it's a
Well,
question, not like not like a foregone conclusion.
right. So I'm going to tell you why I feel like that with when it comes to Janice.
Hmm.
Because, autism is a spectrum. We know that. But there are people on that spectrum who are very direct, very black and white with their thinking, very regimented, like how she's like, I have this phone call scheduled with my sister. If there's no phone call, she's going to know it's a problem. How she talks about she is someone who takes long walks by herself without her phone. Like she doesn't have a lot of social, like she doesn't have like a big social system, and
She's a
she's
hermit.
comfortable in that though.
She's very comfortable in that. I love that
You
about
know
her.
what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
like that, there's a certain subset I feel like of autistic people who don't get their joy and their motivation from social interaction. They get it from doing the things that they enjoy, and it has nothing to do with relating to other people.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And so that's why I'm like, oh, I wonder, but she has but the way she manipulates the son makes me like, I don't know, because
That's why I'm like I'm not certain. Like she is incredibly manipulative as well, and she's very good at knowing what other people want in order to be manipulate people. She's also very good at social cues, which women who are on the spectrum are better at recognizing social cues than men typically.
right.
Um, I'm not convinced that it's an interesting question. I'm not convinced. It could go either way. But
Mhm.
yeah, her ability at social manipulation, she starts manipulating the husband and the son from when she walks into the interview.
Yes.
She shapes him. She takes that office. She knows she's taking the office. The husband's office. She knows she's putting
Right.
him in situations to where he feels like he has to give her that office.
Right.
And because she just wants to work in the office, but
Mhm.
she does, you know what I mean. And the same thing with the son. I'm like, the way that like she figures out the son's motivations, what's important to him, and is able to use that to get him to study math.
Yes.
She's very good at manipulating the situation, which is why it makes her such an interesting victim once the vicar takes her and imprisons her basically in his basement,
Right.
because she's so good at manipulating him. The only person that she's not as good at manipulating the wife, which is also interesting to me.
Right. But
She's
in the beginning, though,
mhm.
it seemed like she was pulling strings with the wife, and it was working in the beginning, but the wife did clock her very easily as soon as like she saw like her husband like going in one direction, and she's like, wait a minute, like what's going on? Because like every time they go down and talk to Janice because they have Janice in their basement.
Mhm.
Every time they go down and talk to Janice, Janice is telling them very divergent stories or telling them things about the other one that's not true. She and the wife does clock it. She's like, wait a minute, no,
Mhm.
this is not right. But she tells her husband and he still doesn't see it.
No, because she's so good at manipulating them too, the men.
Mm-hmm.
The wife clocks it from when she is gets the office.
Because she does say, why would you give her the office? Tell her
Right.
you don't want
She
to.
tell her you don't want to. Tell her it's Sunday. He's a vicar, which is like a priest. I'm thinking there's another
Yeah.
word for priest in British, but and so and so she comes to tutor his son on Sundays. She was like, tell her you need your office on Sunday. And
Mm-hmm.
she clocks it then that Janice could be manipulative, but of course he doesn't figure it out. So like, and I don't think that the vicar is dumb. He's not dumb. He's a smart guy, but he's not as smart as his wife or Janice.
I don't think it's a question of intelligence. I think it's a question of him feeling like because he's a vicar, he
He
has
has
to
to do
see
that.
the best in everyone and he has to
Hmm.
try to serve and help everyone instead of like dissecting situations
Yeah.
and making good decisions for the situation. He has this woman in his basement,
Hmm.
like chained to a wall, and he's trying to convince her that he's a good person.
Yeah.
And so, because he's trying to appear as a good guy, instead of saying, you know what, at this point, I've done a criminal act, I need to go all in on being a criminal, he's trying to convince her to be a good guy, that he's a good guy. So he's only going halfway. And she
Hmm.
uses that to her advantage.
She does.
Like
She does. Um,
Janice is so
but that,
enjoyable.
but that's why I say Janice is very good at recognizing people's underlying motivation and using that to manipulate them.
Hmm. She does. She does. And I
Which makes her probably one of the most fascinating victims of a crime I've ever seen depicted.
Yes. My question was during that situation, yes, Janice was the victim, but did you also feel like for most of that situation she was in control?
Yeah. I mean, well, to some degree, because she couldn't unchain herself. She couldn't get out that basement. And Janice, like he imprisons her. I don't know if we spoiled this clear. She discovers something at their home, and so a series of like just these weird things happen to where he injures her, all unintentionally, leading to her being imprisoned in the basement because he thinks that she's going to falsely accuse his son of something, which the way Janice discovers the information makes it seem like his son did something wrong that he shouldn't have done. Right. But anyway,
Something very major.
right. But yes, like she does now from she's chained into his basement. She can't get out, but she is emotionally manipulating these people left and right, but in intent to save herself.
Right. Absolutely. Right. This is not for fun. This is for survival.
Hmm.
And she's doing her level best to make it
Girl,
through this situation alive.
giving them everything. All she got, and yeah, it's fascinating.
And it doesn't help that like these people are criminals, but they're not criminals. This is
Hmm.
the priest and his wife, and they're holding her hostage while trying to not let the son know what's going on,
Hmm.
while also like trying because eventually even though she doesn't have a big social circle, eventually someone's going to figure out that she's missing. So they're trying to cover that up while they're trying to figure out how to diffuse this accusation.
Hmm.
Like it's a lot going on, and these people are not criminal minded, but they also don't have just plain old common sense.
Because of the heightened emotional situation and because of the threat of what happens to their son. I think in other situations they would, but they are
Right.
so, and that again goes back to like these different moral questions. So like in his mind, the vicar's mind, everything he's doing is justified because he's trying to protect his son. And I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure in his wife's mind, for the most part, even though there's several times where she's like, "Dude, let's hang this up. This ain't for us."
I feel like the wife was trying to kill Janice early and often.
Well, but once she kind of realized that he wasn't going to kill her, or she didn't think he was going to kill her, she was like, okay, well now we need to give up at this point. I don't know. She kind of waffles too.
Given the opportunity, she would have killed Janice if he stopped her.
He started.
She would have killed Janice, and he was the only reason. And so then he decides that he's going to kill Janice.
Mm-hmm.
And he convinces his wife to go away. He doesn't want her to know what he's doing, even though she's not crazy. She knows
She's
exactly
not
what's
going
going on.
away.
And then he finds the slowest way
Possible.
to try and kill her.
Humanly.
And so this is, once again, you're trying to be a good person because you want to kill her, but you don't want her to know. Like, he's trying to kill her with carbon monoxide. So he just puts like a heater that he knows that leaks carbon monoxide in the basement with her. And so he doesn't, like, he, instead of just like strangling her or shooting her or stabbing her,
or poisoning her. Because I'm like, here's the thing: if you're trying to make the moral judgment, Janice technically did nothing wrong. She was just
right,
coming to do her job and discovered something that she shouldn't. That she, you know what I mean? That she, I guess, she shouldn't discover. Sounds wrong, but she just discovered something. And of course was upset by it because it was something that was very upsetting. Um, so like the moral thing, if even if you had to, like, say you feel like you had to kill her to protect your son, like, why not give her something that's poison that's going to kill her quickly and in her sleep, and you know what I mean? That's not going to make her suffer.
right? Especially because like
She's
she
already
had
had her
already,
for a couple days.
and they had already, like, she'd already been like drinking whiskey, like they had given her whiskey to like relax and stuff. So I'm like, okay, at this point she'll pretty much eat or drink whatever you're giving her. But also, like, even if you didn't want to do poison, which to me poison sounds like the best idea, I'm like, putting that heater in there and killing her slowly so she doesn't know what's going on until it's too late is, once again, you trying to be like a good person, because it's like very hands off
Because
and
you
it's
care a lot about
almost
what
an
you think about
accident.
it. So you still, like, even though you're about to kill Janice and you've been prisoner for 2 days, the vicar is still obsessed with what she thinks about him.
Mm-hmm. Which is very weird. Like, you got to just make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, once you change her in the basement, like, it was over.
Right. You go all or nothing at that point.
Right. Right. But he just, I don't know. He tried so many different ways to like defuse like the accusation, and it never worked. And actually, things like, the more he tried to diffuse the situation, the worse things got.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. So you need to either go to the police and just come clean about everything, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or like just kill her,
Mm-hmm.
bury her body. Like, but Janice she was so smart. Like, she convinced them to like send her sister an email, because she's like, well, my sister knows that I'm going to do like a Skype call with her. So you have to cancel it. Tell her that I'm walking in the woods without my phone. And they do it. And then like the next day, the wife is like, wait a minute, how would she send an email if she's walking in the woods without her phone? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, yeah, how would
Now,
she, guys?
yeah, exactly. And not only like so many things. I think Janice set them up so many ways to like both. I'm trying to get out of here, but if you do kill me, they're gonna know it's you. Because again,
Absolutely.
this is also going to ping from your house.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
that my laptop, that this email came from your house. Yeah,
Right.
it was like, and then the funniest part is, okay, so when he first puts her down in the basement, and then he leaves her for a while, then when he comes back to her that very first time, and she's like, I peed in every corner of this room.
She did. And she's like, I left my blood. My DNA is
She
everywhere.
has cut her own arms and has spread her blood all over his basement, so there's no way that they're not going to find out that she was in that basement.
Yes. Like, she from the very beginning was playing
Jump.
chess.
Mm-hmm.
She was. And I loved that, because she's like, I don't have time to sit in the corner and cower and cry. And the only time I feel like she does that is when she's doing it on purpose to manipulate them. Like when she like convinces the vicar that the wife like punches her in the face, or is it the opposite?
She did both. She made it seem like it to both. She tried to but the wife didn't buy it, because by that time the wife is like, this chick is playing us. She don't fully understand, but she's like, but I know you're trying to play us. And so she does it to both. She tries to make it seem like the husband, but she doesn't buy it. And then she tries, and then she does and the husband believes it. The husband believes that the wife has hit her.
Yes. Like
she absolutely hit herself. She did this to herself.
She did. She did.
Yes.
Also, eventually, the son finds her in the basement and spends time down there with her. Why did he not let her go?
This is the like that is probably the most frustrating part of the show to me. And I feel like they wrote it well. They wrote it perfectly accurately. So it's not that. It's just the idea that a teenager has to be the one that you have to reason with in order, because I don't care how smart he is, he's still an irrational and hormonal teenager, and he's worried about all the wrong things when they are both in danger. Because at this point, he finds her, gets locked into the basement as well, and the carbon monoxide poison has already started.
Right.
So they're both on the time clock, and there's nothing she's saying to make him rational. And I'm just like, oh my God, to be with a teenager and have to do this. He wants to figure out what's going on. I'm like, it's not time to figure out what's going on. It's time to get out of this basement.
Absolutely. My question, I'm like, let her out and then question your parents.
And then question your parents. No, you have to figure out what's going on first. I'm like, because as soon as he is like so focused on trying to figure out whether or not his parents are lying to him, I was like, he's going to kill her. I thought he was going to kill her. Because I'm like, he's going to be trying to prove his parents and, protect his parents or whatever. And I'm like, sir, the lack of survival skills was driving me crazy.
Well, I think by the time that they both realized that there was carbon monoxide poisoning, well, I don't even think he ever realized it. By the time Janice realized that they were being poisoned, he was already so irrational and delusional and keyed up that he wasn't even listening to her. But then the fact that he ends up attacking her and trying to kill her, and I'm just like, listen,
to cover up a crime that you don't even know clearly has happened.
Right. My thing was, once you called your parents and asked them direct questions and they both lied to your face, my next call would have been to the police.
It's that self-preservation, because here's the thing. It's not that I would want to get my parents in trouble. I would never want to get my parents in trouble. But at this point, you are locked in a basement with carbon monoxide poisoning. So the only answer is police.
Right.
You know what I mean? The only answer is police. You got your cell phone battery is limited. You got a limited number of calls. If I call 911, I know someone's coming. It's not even like at this point trying to disprove or understand my parents at this point, because it's just like I can call my parents and they not answer. I don't have I know 911 is going to pick up, and I know somebody coming to get these walls out. You know what I mean? Knock the walls down, whatever I got to do to get me out this basement. So if I can get on the phone and say, hey, address, I'm locked in the basement here, somebody's coming.
Yeah, but he didn't know about the carbon monoxide poisoning when he was calling his parents.
You know that you locked in a basement. And
he does know that he does. But he does know that, and he knew his battery was limited. He didn't even go upstairs and bang on the door.
Mm-hmm. He did.
At
the very beginning. Yeah, but before the poison took hold, he did for a while.
Because I'm like, I would have been at the top of the stairs, banging and banging and banging. Or when his dad called and he asked his dad a direct question,
and he lied.
Yes, he lied. I would have been like, well, why am I in the basement with Janice right now?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Because you got to at least think that your parents are going to preserve you.
Right.
Because I'm like, that's my point about the no survival skills. So you have this full conversation with your dad on low battery. You are locked in the basement. He actually did pick up. So I am locked in the basement. Come get me.
And we can just talk about this Janice situation.
We can figure out this Janice thing in a minute. Get me out the basement.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a very crazy way to react to the situation, and eventually he puts 2 and 3 and 4 together, and he figures out that Janice thinks that he's committed like this heinous crime that he has not committed, and that his parents are trying to protect him, and so he ends up attacking Janice. And what is crazy is, mind you, I have seen this show before, but I saw it, I think, when it first came out. When he attacked her, I was like, oh man, Janice is gone.
Girl, me too. And that was the saddest part. I was like, no, she fought so hard.
Right. I was like, no, she was so close. Although, so Janice does end up surviving. She does. But I forgot because I was so drawn back into the story. I was so drawn back into the story. And I'm just like, I'm like rooting for Janice so hard, even though it's like it's not that the vicar, once again, he's a very likable character. They,
Mhm.
first of all, the fact that they casted David Tennant, who played Doctor Who, one of the most well-known and likable characters
Mhm.
in this role, like you can't help but love him, even as he's like doing crazy stuff and making terrible decisions. It's still like, I mean, that's Doctor Who though,
Yeah, it's not,
you know. And so it's that is
I
funny.
definitely have better, higher feelings of him as Doctor Who than I do as a vicar. I'm like, I know that means a lot to some people, but like, whatever.
Right.
But I'm like, but yeah, but it's like, but it's Doctor Who. No.
Right. There were so many little funny moments
Hmm.
in the show. For the show to be about like such drama and so heavy, it had like these random light moments, like when the delivery man came to the door as he's like trying to, like, he's got the carbon monoxide going, and then like the delivery guys come to the door try to deliver a package. He's like, oh, that's not my address, it's like the neighbor's house. The guy's like, oh, are you the vicar? My mom loves you. And like he convinces the guy to leave, and then the guy comes back, he's like, oh, they're not home, can I leave it with you? Can you make a video for my mom? And because the vicar wants to be well liked,
Hmm.
he, like, as he's trying to murder someone in the basement, he's like doing like a cameo happy birthday message to somebody's mom.
And referring and trying to refer him, who asked him to refer to himself as the sexy vicar. Like the
Yeah.
whole time, I'm just like, I just want him to get through the sexy vicar line. That's it.
And I just like, and it's just like those little pops of humor
Hmm.
are like they're definitely needed.
Hmm. Yeah,
They're definitely
I'll
needed.
appreciate
But I even okay. Did you feel like the way that the wife died had some humor to it?
it. Yes.
So they're like which is funny because she had been trying to convince him to kill Janet, and she ends up like she goes to Janice's house to try to plant stuff to make it seem like Janice was home after her appointment with them, because everyone who would look at Janice's schedule would be able to know the last place that she was at her tutoring appointment with the family. So they're trying to convince the world that she was there, but then she left. So they take her purse and her laptop, the wife does, back to her apartment. She happens to be there at the same time that Beth, the journalist, is there trying to like look around the house and figure out what's going on. So she's trying to get away from Beth, who's asking all of these questions, and she steps off the curb and she gets hit by a bus. And I'm like, that it was hilarious. I don't know why it was funny in the moment, but it was. There's something, I guess, maybe ironic about her, who's been trying to kill Janice this whole time, ended up dying.
About being hit by a bus the way she was from just being stepping off a curb. Yeah. And you're not expected it in that moment. Yeah. I don't know why that was funny. I also like, I don't know, like at that point, like I'm rooting for Janice.
Mm-hmm.
So like, hey, whatever happens to the vicar and his wife.
Right. Specifically, I'm not rooting for Beth. I'm specifically rooting for Janice.
Yeah.
Because I still have my issues with Beth. Like, yes, Beth is like helping him. Like, because actually, before she goes back to England, she helps him solve another mystery of a man who disappeared. And his daughter and his wife come to the prison and they're like, oh, he just disappeared and it was so mysterious and we can't figure it out. And so she helps him solve that mystery, which was where the wife killed him. And she's like, why would the wife, like, if she knows that she killed him, why would she like come to you and ask for help? He was like, well, she actually didn't. It was like the daughter. The daughter
Mhm.
was the one who actually was like asking for help. She was just along for the ride. But so she actually helps him solve that murder before going back to England. And he sends her back to England with instructions and with a private investigator to help find Janice. But I'm never at any point rooting for Beth. I'm only rooting for Janice.
Morag is another killer. Oh, well, not killer. She's a criminal. She breaks into houses.
She does break into houses, but I feel like that's like still makes her a private investigator, because I've
Okay,
every time I see private
that's not
investigators,
her
they
job.
always break into houses.
I've been investigating for him, but that's not her
Let me-
job. She's a robber.
Is she just a robber? I'm gonna look now.
Hmm. I also like
Oh,
enjoy
just as
Morag.
an acquaintance. They just refer to her as an acquaintance.
Mhm.
I don't know. She didn't give like private investigator vibes.
She did. She did intentionally. So again, she manipulates situations too because she presents to Beth as a cop initially. Like he sent a
Right.
cop to come pick you up, and then she is investigating or helping him do the legwork of the stuff that he can't physically do. So yeah, she definitely presents as a PI, but she makes it very clear that one, don't get attached to this man. He has no moral values, and two, I am a criminal. Like she says several times, like I'm a housebreaker, blah, 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 blah. So Morag is very clear about who she is, but yeah,
She
she's
is.
doing this investigation, but like it's like almost kind of like for fun.
What was interesting about Morag versus Beth? Beth says that she's disgusted by Jefferson and she doesn't like him, but you very much see the admiration that she has for him.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to Morag, even though she works with him, like you can very much see the disdain that she has for him.
Mm-hmm.
And like she works with him, but you can tell she's kind of also grossed out by the thought of him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Beth is pretending that she's like, no, I see who he really is, and I know he's a problem, but I don't believe it. She has like that. There's this look when she talks about him and when she's around him, where you could tell she is very fascinated and she's very enamored with him.
She is, but they're kind of similar in that way, her and the professor, because it's the same thing. Like you guys both chose to center your lives around crime. You know what I mean? You're not criminals, but you're fascinated with crime and how they happen.
Right, but then
Well, he is now a criminal, but like he did not, like I said, he didn't spend most of his life. Most of his life, he was a professor,
right.
of criminology. So same thing. She's a writer, but she just has a column. Is the word I was looking for. Her column is about crime.
So, do you think he's fascinated with her too? Do you think he's fascinated with the journalist?
Yeah, I think so. Anybody that he can kind of dissect and kind of figure out like where their moral standing is, like that's what I think fascinates him. But also that he sees her more than she sees herself in this moment.
Okay, so now I have another thing I want to talk about. So when the show first starts, like Jefferson is very much talking about how he's on death row and he deserves it, and how he needs to pay for his crime by dying. And he says, he says stuff about like, I don't want to die, but I need to die. I should die. And then when he gets his death row date, he immediately starts pulling strings so that he doesn't actually have to die.
But he doesn't. That's not why he's pulling the strings. That's what it seems like. But think about it. He pulls those strings and he makes it seem like it's to move his death row date because he knows that the warden wants him to advocate for himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he gets everybody to go along with it. But really what he wants is his ex-father-in-law, who is involved in some kind of criminal syndicate, to send his goons to the house to go get Janice.
So you don't think so that's so he never intended to like.
It is all manipulate. Like it is all so he can move those chess pieces. But he's resigned himself. He does say he doesn't want to die, and I believe he doesn't want to die, but he believes he deserves to die.
Mm-hmm.
So he's resigned himself that he's going to die. But this is his last like sort of chit, and he's going to use it to to solve this case. Because he's still trying to solve as many cases as he can before death. He does not genuinely do things that are going to move back his death date. He just makes it seem like he does so he can get his actual agenda done.
Also, I never understood why the warden felt like he should try to advocate for himself. Like you're a warden.
Right. But I think the warden sees what he does in solving these cases as atonement. Like he sees like value in him being around to solve, because he solves these cases that are really difficult for other people to solve. He sees things that people can't see. He gives people in some cases, closure, I guess, to know like what happened to their family and loved ones. He figures out crimes and that kind of stuff. So I think the warden sees value in what he does and doesn't want him to die. And I think the warden misunderstands what he does as somehow like as atonement, like as he's getting better morally. He's not.
Let me ask you this: do you think part of the reason why the warden sees it that way is because he is a white man of similar age and social stature?
I mean, that definitely does. Like, yeah, because he's definitely not going to try to. Even if Dylan's not rehabable, but like he would never do this for Dylan if Dylan was the same person,
right?
But I don't think it's just that. I do think. I think he is not a traditional warden in the sense of I think all like these criminals are bad. They should rot here forever. I think that I think that the warden is motivated by like he does see him as redeeming himself. You know what I mean? Like I think, yeah, I do think he sees him as redeeming himself, and so he's like, no, but you actually are doing the work and you're redeeming yourself, so you should have a second chance.
I think that the only reason why he feels like he should have a second chance is because he can relate to him. I feel like if Jefferson was like an Asian man, I don't think he would be able to see. I don't think he would see it the same. I think that he gives him way too much grace, way too
Mm-hmm.
much understanding, and way too much benefit of the doubt that I just don't see other people get. Even if it was a woman, I don't even know if he would see it the same way.
I don't think that that's the only reason. I definitely think that that's a factor, but I don't think that's the only reason. I do think that he sees what he does as some sort of atonement and some evidence of progress of him getting better. Now, if he was black, white, Asian, I'm like black, Asian, or a woman, he wouldn't even look for it. Is what I think it is more so than anything. But if Jefferson was Dylan and still a white man, then no, I don't think the warden would. I think the warden does believe in redemption.
For
You
certain.
understand what I mean?
Right. But see, because I agree with you that I don't think Jefferson's character is like sorry for what he did or his morals and values have changed. I think he's bored and those cases fascinate him. But I think the warden is seeing something that is not there because it's very
Agreed.
easy for him to put himself in those shoes. Which is
Hmm.
why I'm like,
I don't think that that's the only reason. I do think that the warden believes in redemption. I think that he's not just like a punishment only type of warden.
mm-hmm,
But does all those things play in a factor because they always do? Yes. So like I just don't think like he would look for it in someone who wasn't a white man.
mm-hmm,
But I do think that like I don't think like he would just give a pass to any white man. I think he sees redemption and I think he sees value in what he does.
mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm just like, what an interesting prison.
Hmm.
What an interesting prison this is, you know.
It is. Mm-hmm.
But I thought
But I
that,
mean, like, I'm not like, not that I like, like or advocate for the prison system, but I don't think that like every single person in the prison system is like the evil, like I think there are some people who do think like, you go in there and try to make a difference and that they're like, you try to get the people who can to redeem themselves. And yeah, I think there are people like that.
I definitely agree, but I
Yeah.
don't know about if like the head cutter. I don't know if you cut somebody's head off, and you're also saying that there's context that you're missing, but I'm also not willing to give you that context. I don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, and even though I see how
Oh
they
yeah.
made his character very likable, like I
Yes,
said,
that's the other part. He's very charismatic.
they
And that goes a long way with people.
it does.
Right or wrong, it doesn't. And I think that is part of what the show is saying.
Mhm.
Like the charisma of both Jefferson and Dylan go a long way with a lot of people, but they're not redeemable.
Right, they're not. Even like how Dylan talks about how he used the fact that he was like a Buddhist, like to like game the system so he couldn't like be executed.
He executed. Hmm.
Which I didn't understand fully because I'm like, you're telling me they still haven't found like a Buddhist that could.
I think they just stopped trying. I think he's got caught up in the system. And again, he's made himself of use.
Mm-hmm.
So they almost, to me, like the warden, where he sees all this redemption, to your point, where he sees all this redemption and atonement in Jefferson, he just kind of uses Dylan as a tape recorder,
Right.
almost like an object.
He does, yes. And also like as a little student that he can like, teach about things. And
Well, no, I'm talking about the warden.
oh yeah, no,
Like
absolutely.
I think Jefferson and Dylan have a friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Jefferson's also disgusted by the friendship because he knows Dylan is not redeemable, but at the same time, they're fascinated with each other.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree that the warden just uses
But the
Dylan,
warden is like, no, he's an object. He's a glorified tape recorder.
which is so interesting because he's like a black man and he just
Hmm.
sees him as an object, which is once again more reason why I just like the warden character annoys me. Like I understand without him, like there is no story because he allows all the stuff to happen. But I'm just like that is very, it
He
just,
lost the phone in his cell.
right. I'm like, this is crazy. It's very crazy. But I
Mhm.
do like this show because it makes you think about morality, be able to have a conversation about morality, but it's not preachy, and
Mm-mm.
there's a lot of open-endedness. There's
Like, no answers.
a lot of, okay, what would I do if I was this person in the situation? What would I
In
do
this
if I was
situation.
this person in the situation? There's a lot to think about, and there's a lot of fat to chew in this
Mhm.
show, and I like that, and I think that we could get more. Sometimes I feel like shows that want to like give you questions and things to think about, they get like so esoteric, they forget to actually be entertaining.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know. Have you ever seen the show The OA?
No.
When I tell you I've tried to watch the show so many
Yeah,
times,
I can't get through it.
it's just weird for weird's sake. And now
Hmm.
maybe you guys, if you guys out there know
Liked
or
it.
see something different, like convince me that I need to watch it, because
Put it in the comments.
I can't make it through a few episodes. And so it's like I like when TV tries to be different. I like when TV poses questions, and but at the same time you still have to have a level of entertainment. You can't be
Mhm.
so like theoretical or so up in the clouds that like I'm just like, oh, I
I
hate
can't remember.
this.
Right.
Now, the most complicated show that I have ever watched, and still currently watching, I'm watching a show with my husband, and it's called Dark, and it's a German show, and it involves like time travel, and so it's like Germany, like in the like 80s and the 50s and the 30s, and then in the future, and it involves like families that overlap, but these characters all look so similar because like it's a small town in Germany. There's just not a lot of diversity. There is no diversity, and
Mhm.
everybody looks so similar. It is so hard for me and my husband to follow. And we're like, it's a German show, but we're actually watching it in English with
Mhm.
English subtitles. And it's still so complicated that I had to go online and like look at the online like family trees. And so the show in itself is good. The show in itself is entertaining, and I don't think it's meant to be as complicated as it is. I think it's complicated for me as I'm an American, and so I'm used to like more diversity in the way that they like in the look, like here, like Caucasian people, like they still like look they
Different.
even look very
There's a lot of
different from each
variety.
other. It's a huge country we live in. Like there's just a huge variety, and in this show everybody looks like they could be related, and it is just so
It is hard to tell the characters apart.
hard. And here's the funny thing, like when they do present day and when they do the 80s, everything looks the same. Like the clothes, like they're like, oh yeah, look, those clothes look like they're from the 80s, and I'm like, I feel like they look like what y'all have on now. Like it's just not
Mhm.
drastically. Once it goes past the 80s, like once it's like in the 50s and I think like the 30s, like that. Okay, yes, it's very clear it's a different time period, but
Mhm.
80s and the present day and then the
Yeah.
future,
Very simple.
it all looks a little too similar to me. And like they're aging up characters, and I'm like, you as a child, you could be any of those people as an adult. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't see the correlation.
That would be hard. Yeah.
It's a great show. I just wish I had like okay, so do you know like when you watch football and they have like
Mhm.
the telestrator, they circle and they draw lines? I would love to watch the show while they have that commentary going over.
Everybody need name tags, young and old.
Not just, but like you need more than a name tag. You also
Like
need a name tag
1930s Veronica.
because it needs to say like right. It needs to say Charlotte, daughter of so and so, because it's just like they all stay in the same town. So it's like the grandfather married this one, and then they had a kid, and then they had a kid with their next door neighbor, and so I'm going to tell you because I know you're not going to ever watch this show.
Never am I ever.
In present day, a little boy gets lost. You
Mhm.
find out that he goes back in time and he ends up growing up in the 80s and fathering and then marrying and fathering a child from the that's in the present day. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, they're like, oh, this little boy, he disappeared. And but you go come to find out, like, it's this guy, like, it's his dad. His dad kills himself, like, right at the beginning of the show. And you find out that his dad the whole time has been the little boy that ends up disappearing because he went to the 80s and then grew up and got
Oh.
adopted. And like, I'm telling you, this show is wild.
Mhm.
It's very I and I don't say stuff like this often. I would love a US version because it would be so much easier for me to
Tell people
follow.
apart.
Yes, if there was a
And
U.
I will say, for the most part, they do a good. Well, I'll say now they did not do such a good part in like 10, 15 years ago, but they do a lot better job now of matching the children to the adults when you have to have a depiction of
Right.
children and adults. Because I watched a few shows recently, I was like, oh no, I clearly know. That's it.
I
Like
do think they do a better. They try to do a better job, but this is just listen. You can only do so much when there's like three faces in the town.
right.
You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? Like, I'm trying, and
Everybody
then
been
like
marrying everybody for
you can't
years.
have my hair color because I swear, like, the child version will have one color hair and then the adult version has a different color hair. I also there's certain hair colors I can't tell. Like, some, like, I don't understand when someone says, "Oh, that person is strawberry blonde."
Or dirty blondes.
I don't know what that is. I don't know what it is. I don't know the nuances in the hair colors enough. Like, I need it to be
What does that mean?
dramatic.
Can we say 613 or 1B?
Right.
I would know that better.
Like, these nuances, I'm not gonna I can't pick up, on these nuances. So we had to watch season one twice
Hmm.
and now we're on season two, but like, we have to go so slow. Like, we have to like watch an episode and then dissect it and then figure it out. But the show is still good. I like this. The show is still good. You know, I love sci-fi and
Hmm.
it's very trippy. I don't think that they could really, it would be hard to like do a version in the US because like there's like specific German history stuff. I mean, I guess I could just do
They would
US,
do an American version, yeah.
like like,
You don't want to do identical anyway, yeah.
yeah, like it's interesting. It really is. It's like it's the hardest like show I've had to understand because I'm like, it's very common for me to watch shows from other countries, you know, and like this is the first time where I've like really struggled to like follow a storyline. And I'm someone who I honestly prefer when I watch shows from other countries to watch it in the native language and just read the subtitles because the acting is better. Sometimes with the voiceover acting,
Oh my God.
it's not as good.
Voiceover acting goes to soap opera very quickly.
And so it's just better for me to hear the people. There's a huge difference when someone is acting in their native language and you just have to read the subtitles. For
Mhm.
me personally, it's a better experience. I prefer that. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
It does take me out sometimes. That's probably why, I can watch stuff in other languages with subtitles. But like, well, yeah, I can watch another language subtitles. Sometimes voiceovers are what it is that kind of takes me out. And I'm like this with audiobooks too. If the voice is annoying, I'm out.
I
I
told you
can't do it.
I had to DNF a book because one of the narrators was terrible. I mean, it
Mhm.
was grinding. Oh, it was the worst. It was the worst experience in the world. And there are certain audiobooks that I listen to just because of the narrator. Like, Neil Schusterman is
Hey.
one of my favorite authors, but
Mhm.
one of the reasons why I love his books so much is he has the best
Same.
narrator.
You
The
got a good narrator, I will listen to. Yeah, yeah, I will listen to whatever which, yeah, that if you have a nice voice and you have the right amount of drama but not too much, yeah.
I don't know. I think about this book often. Not that I can't remember the name of the book, but like the first book was really good. The second book was terrible, but it was that I'm like, did y'all not listen to that narration before you released that book? What was going I still like, it blows my mind. And it was like, there's, because this book is like like there's like 6 or 7 main characters, so there's multiple narrators in this book. So this is one narrator who's narrating one person out of all of them. It was enough for me not to finish the book. It was that jarring and uncomfortable and that hard to listen to. And I really wish I could get my money back from audio. I wonder if I could ask them from Audible. Can you return an Audible? Because it was terrible.
I've never tried to return Audible, but I want to find out. Let me know.
I'll let you know. But I know we got kind of off topic, but we'll fix it in post.
Right.
But thank you guys so much. So the next episode, we're going to continue our discussion of Inside Man. We're going to actually kind of talk more about the plot. I know we were kind of very vague about the plot, but we're going to get more deep into the plot in the next episode.
I'm ready for the next episode. I can't wait to get home and turn my TV on. I'm ready for the next episode. Got my flash shoes off, no remote control. I'm ready for the next episode.